Here we go again. Okay, so going back to our Listeria hazard analysis. Okay, in this section, we're going to be discussing production operations as part of our observation for source of Listeria cross-contamination. So on this part of it, obviously, I've identified at this step the mixing blending. So you have you're done with pre-weigh. Now you're going to be mixing or blending your materials for your finished product. And then after that, you're either going to be classifying your materials, obviously, or your finished product. It's either a ready to eat or a non-ready to eat, right? So assuming it's ready to eat, or in your event, it's a non-ready to eat. So once you mix it and blend it, for non-ready to eat, it's just you're basically going to go to packaging at that point, right? Because you're not putting any post-lethality or a kill step process. So it's just going to be a non-ready to eat materials, and you're going to be sending it out to the public or to your distribution. The other part is on this step, I'm looking at cooking and baking for cross-contamination as well. You might be saying, well, Arnell, you know, we're going to bake it, or it's going to be over 165 degrees, and you know, Listeria is not going to be present during that process. So what I'm looking at here is the material being undercooked. So that could be a source if it was contaminated. Like I said, depends on your classification, right? RTE or non-RTE. Give us a call if you need assistance on those classification. So cross-contamination may occur due to conveying the product to and from the mixer and blenders, right? So part of my hazard analysis that I'm looking at is the movement of that materials from, remember, they've been exposed. They are now open. They are in tubs or, you know, mini containers and things, and you're putting them on blenders, right? You're putting them on blenders. I know you have prerequisite programs on your SSOPs about your equipment and all of those things. You know, we're not going to wait for the lab to tell us if those have been cross-contaminated with Listeria. We're moving forward, right? So we need to pay attention to those as PCQIs. You know, how are they handled with gloved hands, right, and or non-gloved hands? And you're putting them in your mixer and blenders. How are you taking them out? How do you evacuate that product and putting it to your next process, either cooking or baking? Okay. So now on the cooking and baking process, what I look for is conveying the product, you know, from their mold or containers or in their trays, and you're actually rolling them into your oven. What I pay attention to is some oven, they have electromechanical door openers and closers. You know, what does that process look like? What am I touching? Am I just doing the elbow hit with a button? Am I pulling a cord? Am I actually touching the actual handle? So I'm looking at these touch points and how those are being managed with preventive measures, right? So are we changing gloves when we're doing that? Because it's raw. Now it's going to come out cooked, okay? So when your finished product gets a hit in Listeria, that's one of the things I look at when I get those phone calls. And basically, I start asking questions, right? I had raw and, you know, in my opinion, soiled hand at this point, and I'm touching that door, that oven door to open it, and I'm shoving my cart. I'm also touch point on my cart, and I'm pushing it in. Now it goes through the cooking process. Listeria, right, is gone. How do I verify that? I do my temperature. Now I'm touching, right? Did I wash my hands? Did I change gloves? I'm watching my, you know, I'm touching my thermometers, right, to verify my points, and I'm probing here, you know, top, middle, bottom, whatever your program says for that. So I have that. I touched the tray when I pulled it out. Well, you know, some folks says, well, Arnell, that tray is hot, right? No, I got it, right? but it's also cooling down. People are beginning to touch it, moving it from one place to the other. So I pay attention to that and I ask those questions so that I can put it on my analysis and I can improve my program for my environmentals or for my Listeria monitoring. So the other part of that is I look at PPEs, right? So what do we use on one process, crossing over to the next process, hand washing and glove maintenance program at that particular activity. Are we changing gloves, rewashing our hands, putting fresh new gloves in, to handle cooked or baked products, to move on to the next step. And then I also look at the equipment list for that particular activity. So is it segregated? Do we have separation of functions at that point? So I pay attention to those, right? As a PCQI, and kind of like, well, wait a minute, we were using that on the raw side, or we were using it on the non-kill step, right? Process on this activity prior. Now we're doing this process. Did we cross over? Did we actually bring it in, right? So that was one thing I look at. And the same thing with utensils. And part of that's also measuring equipment. I've mentioned pocket thermometers, things like that. I think they are a very, very bad habit of people, because people put their hands in their pockets and, they touch their face and all of those things. So, for me, probes, you should have a separate cart based on best practices, that you have your measuring equipment, your thermometers or whatever those you utilize for these type of activities, segregated. They're in that room. They're just made for that one process, and you're constantly cleaning them, obviously, to prevent cross contamination. So we can put these programs for you. And let me look at the other one. So on the cook process now, so we're still on that cook or bake product. I mentioned separation of functions, for that. So I know I love repeating myself, because it helps me think through a lot of the things that I do every day. So make sure all of your functions are separated. Put together those type of designated carts or tools and things like that. So some ovens, they as operated, and you need to make adjustments on that. Make sure your equipment are there. Get with maintenance and basically get a list of, hey, what do we need to do when we're adjusting this oven? And when you come in here, right? Are you bringing your own tools? Can we have the basic tools to make these type of adjustments? Screwdrivers, Phillips screwdrivers, wrenches and whatnot, can they be segregated and they're already here? So as part of my pre-op, I can check those as well, that everything is accounted for and present, right? So anyways, so that's kind of on the production operation when I'm looking at an hazard analysis in this particular exercise that we're doing, and the actual report that I'm preparing for clients is Listeria. Okay, well, thanks everybody. I hope that helps. Like I said, if you have any comments, and I know I've missed a lot. The system is not perfect, but we're here trying, right? Comments, info@Consultaire Inc. Let us know, and we can add it on our blog and best practices. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.